Hey guys, it's Matt. You've heard me in the past several times talk about how our community, the truth community, has been used or is currently being used, played, and manipulated by the system for certain goals and aims. Many of you, of course, know exactly what I'm talking about. I'm going to try to continue that discussion, but then create or talk about a parallel between how we're used and how Neo, Trinity, and Morpheus were used in the Matrix movie, and then relate that to some of the things going on today, some current events, and then we'll talk about the three main ways that I believe this system uses us to accomplish its goals, with a similar theme being that revelation of the method stuff that we looked at in that Michael Hoffman video or interview that I covered about a year ago. But, so in our group here, we're talking about and trying to get to the bottom how we're being used. And I mean, I haven't heard any other channels even mention how they're being used. I freely admit I've been used and played. I'm sure in many of the 7-Eleven job application submission videos, I was used and played into the hands of exactly the type of videos they wanted me to put out. In all of the Bang events, I studied and broke them down for years. Probably played right into the hands of what the system wanted. So at least we're noticing how we've been played, and we're going to try to correct it and try. For example, there's a huge case study coming in this UFO disclosure nonsense. Huge case study, and we'll talk about that towards the end of this video. What do they look to accomplish with that? But how many other channels even mention they've been used, played, or the community's been used and played? They just think they're getting to the bottom of things, and it's just, this community never learns. It really doesn't. It really never learns. And I'm going to say the same thing. 80%, that's conservative, guys, but please pull the skeptic hat down as tight as you possibly can with 80% of the videos you watch. Not that they're all in on it. Some are. Absolutely. Some are agents of the system to discredit or whatever they do. But others, they just think they're doing the best they can, but they are playing into what the system wants. And I'm not immune to it. I look back just now over my videos, and the video I had back 4 or 5 videos back about why they want all of us focused so much on space. I think that's pushing 40,000 views. I usually only get, 10 to 16 or 17,000 views per video. So when something pushes 40, it has happened to me several times over the years. But the first thing I think is, what potentially am I saying in that video that the system might like, that the system is some way promoting it? I don't think it's enough promotion amongst ourselves for my video to get to 40,000 views without the system in some way promoting it. So I'm aware of it. I might say something incorrectly the system might like. At least we're aware of it here. I don't think too many channels even mention it. But anyway, enough said on that. And I don't think my video about why they want us focusing on space plays right into the system's hands. I'm just saying there could be something there. It seems to be being promoted. I still stand by what I said at this point. If I don't, I'll pull it. Anyway, so guys, going back to the initial, it's still the greatest truth drop movie of all time, The Matrix, and the parallels between how they were used and how we are used is fun to talk about, and we'll put in I'll talk about some real world examples. But before I start, just wanted to highlight this picture here. We'll switch over to this one here. It's a little bit better. Oh, by the way, guys, if you're just listening, you don't need to see these images. I'll talk about what there's not much here but thumbnails, grainy thumbnails. But, if you're driving, don't worry about it. I'll try to always remember to tell you what you're looking at. In the fandom of The Matrix, you have to search out the fandom, that's associated with the comic books and the things that came before, just after the movie. They talk about another purpose for how the human being was harnessed in its pods by the machine world. and the architect and the oracle and the matrix. In the movie, they present, this isn't directly related to how we're used, played, and abused, guys, but this is worth mentioning one more time. It's very interesting, and it relates to, I believe, how reality itself works. In the movie, what do they say a human being is used for? Everybody remembers. Excuse me. They say, just as a form of energy. Human beings are in their pods, so the machine world can harness the human being's body temperature of 98.6 and harness its BTUs. And even the movie says, that is ridiculous, by the way, because even the movie says that human body heat from all the people in the pods in the Matrix, that end combined with a form of fusion will give the machines all the energy they will ever need. Well, fusion or some sort of nuclear reaction would produce hundreds of millions of times more energy than people's body heat in pods. Like they really need that. They have little pads stuck under Neo's armpits or Mr. Anderson's armpits to make sure they get all his body heat. Morpheus, when he was in his pod before he was rescued, to lay out some kind of giant fart inside the gelatinous liquid that they ooh, let's harness that for its energy. I mean, it's a joke. If they had fusion or fission, they wouldn't need anything else. So you get into the Matrix fandom that says, it's not too hard to find, but it is buried. It seems like they didn't want this coming out. They didn't want this being part of the movie. It said everybody in a pod that's a real person, their collective conscious was used or networked together or wired together to actually produce the CPU processing power that the Matrix needed. So the people in the pods, per the Matrix fandom, were the reality creators of the Matrix itself. And that's exactly as the machine city here is structured. It looks like, even though it's not like a flat, you'd see a processor on a motherboard, it looks like a processor, the way they're presenting it here, with the engine of that processor being the real consciousness of real human beings. And implying with the Matrix fandom, they couldn't do it on their own. They networked, like Cisco Systems, networked the real consciousness together to create the reality. Now, you know where I'm going with this. Potentially, this didn't make the movie. Well, here's why they say it didn't make the movie. Oh, that just would be too complicated for people, and it was just easier to say. This is the official story, at least what I've researched. It's just easier to say that they needed people's body heat for energy, so machines could have enough energy to sustain themselves. But then in the same sentence, they said they have fission or fusion. Yeah, that makes sense. It's not that people wouldn't understand it in the movie. It may be that it's too close to the truth, or it is the truth. Where most people listening to this, if you're new here, this might sound odd, but if you're kind of old guard here, to one degree or another, we all see how the collective consciousness of people here in this world actually create, and if you aren't too triggered by the word, quantumly shape reality, create reality. The never-ending story, the nothing was dissolving everything. It just was, the only thing left was just a grain of sand. And I guess he, through his imagination, there's a truth drop. This world, it needs to sustain itself by the least, if not individual consciousness, how individual consciousness works with the collective consciousness to actually, yes, literally create reality. Whether you're triggered by the double slit experiment and some people are triggered by quantum anything, or it doesn't. We all, to anybody, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but the smart people that have been in this community for a long enough time see how consciousness is related to reality in some way. Maybe it's not exactly as science tells us. Science isn't giving us too much information that we can rely on anymore. And Bootsy's about to step on my keyboard and cut off my recording here. I think it's still going. Yes, it is. Okay. But in some way they're related. Whether you're triggered by the double slit experiment or the word quantum or not. And what gives that away is how the collective, Matt, what evidence is there of that? Oh, how the masses are used and manipulated every day collectively, and the billions of people to believe the wrong things, to invest in the wrong things, to invest their time in the wrong. They're constantly moved to create the reality that this system wants. I mean, look out the window with what's going now with C, of course. We don't know exactly all the bells and whistles and buttons and levers on how this works, but it is how it works. And it's very interesting to point out and to remember that this was the initial concept of the Matrix movie, that they said, oh, people wouldn't understand that, so we just have to say, we're just going to shove the pads under Morpheus's armpits and get his body heat. That's all people can. It's probably too close to the damn truth, or is the truth. So just wanted to talk about that. Now, in terms of, let's go back and just, for the Matrix, everybody's familiar with the Matrix, but let me just go back on a basic level and explain how Neo and Morpheus and Trinity were played. Okay, most people that have only seen the movie a few times believe that the Oracle, the kind old woman, was just helping. She was just helping Neo, and no, the Oracle and the Architect were working on the same team. Doesn't mean they like each other. They want the same goal. Neo carries this code called the anomaly. All right? We'll talk about in a minute or in a few minutes whether when they broke free of the Matrix and the Nebuchadnezzar rescued Neo being flushed down the machine world toilet from his pod, we'll talk about whether that was the real world or that was just another layer of the Matrix. Probably the latter. But people think the Oracle was helping out. No. I don't, guys, we could do hours on this, but just trust me here. If you've looked at this so many times over the years, and I'll provide some evidence here, but I don't want to spend too much time on it. Neo was put in a position by the Oracle mostly, and also by the Architect. He was put in the right place at the right time throughout the series of all three movies, so he could eventually do what the Matrix needed. Implant the anomaly code, or the anomalous code, back into the Matrix, so the Matrix could improve itself. It's a big concept. But the Oracle, I mean, even in her, well, how was she helping? She was assimilated by Agent Smith and exactly what she wanted to do. Neo wasn't the one by himself. It was the duality. It was Neo and Smith were both the one. The two needed to be one. The Oracle allowed herself to be assimilated by Smith. Okay, that wasn't like she knew she's the Oracle. Even Smith says, "Well, you knew I'd be here. Why are you still here?" Well, yeah, she did know. Smith should have said, "Well, you're the Oracle. You have the eyes of the Oracle. You'd know I'd be here now, trying to assimilate you. So the fact that you're still here means you want to be assimilated. Good job, Smith. You idiot." He should have known, as Neo should have known when he was stopping Sentinels with his hands in the real world. At the end of Matrix 2, stopping 10,000-pound machines just by putting his hand out, like he just happens to be a son of Odin or something. He should have known. He should have said, well, wait a second. Should have grabbed Roy Jones Jr. and said, here's the picture, guys. It's just a picture of not missing anything. Here comes the Sentinel, the end of Matrix 2. He puts his hand out, and crushes it. But he's supposed to be in the real world. He's got that frayed sweater. They ate that gruel, that tasty wheat crap in the morning. He should have turned to Roy Jones Jr. or, Mrs. Will Smith or whatever her name is and said, "Did you just see what I did there?" "Yeah." "Well, if we're not completely gone, it means we're still in the Matrix, because I shouldn't be able to stop a 10,000-pound machine bum rushing me by just putting my hand out. You're not the son of Odin? I didn't know I was, but I must be. Either that or we're still in the damn Matrix." They're still in the Matrix. They're probably still. They were most likely. The Matrix identified who's going to be the problems, right? Neo announced himself to the Matrix as a problem. He's doing all this hacking and all this stuff. Potentially, the agents in the Matrix doesn't like. They know who Neo is. So hey, let's get him into that second part, that Matrix underworld, which is still part of the simulation, and these dumbasses are gonna think it's the real world. We'll get Morpheus, we'll play his dumbass to come with the Nebuchadnezzar, and he'll miraculously rescue Neo from the machine world toilet. But of course, when Neo breaks through his pod after taking the red pill, of course, the Matrix would have no ability to track Morpheus running around the Matrix. When he emerges from his pod into the supposed real world, The big machine 2 seconds later flies over, grabs him by the neck. You want to talk about hydraulic power? You ever see the hydraulic power of a cat equipment? This guy down the way here, he had his own caterpillar. And there's this giant tree that fell. The thing, I couldn't tell you how many thousands and thousands of pounds. And I'm like, you'll never get that out of there. It's like, are you kidding me? He picked it up. He just clawed it, picked it right up in the air like it was nothing. I mean, I think the machine that was around Neo's neck, could have just probably snapped it. But that's just me. They kept, the machine kept him alive, and flushed him down the machine world toilet, and there was Morpheus in the machine world tidy bowl to rescue Neo. Of course, the Matrix and the Oracle and the Deus Ex Machina babyface machine at the end would have no ability to track the Nebuchadnezzar ship flying around in its tunnels. Whatever. They're all played. They're all played, all used, and we are the same thing in the truth community. All right, Oracle and Architect didn't mean they liked each other, but at the end they sing Kumbaya with each other. At the end, here he comes walking up to her on the bench. He didn't like the way she played the game. She took over control of how Neo would be played. He played a dangerous game. She did play a dangerous game. Potentially, the Oracle was even fooled when Neo said, I'm not going to take what the other anomalies have done before me. I'm going to go after Trinity. I'm going to choose the door you don't want me to choose. The Architect could have even been fooled. But at that point, the Oracle had kind of taken over the game. And they're working for the same goal, as it shows at the end as they, talk to each other. Not liking each other, but but completely in harmony with how they're working together. This Oracle's supposed to be so friendly to the humans. The Architect calls her the mother of the Matrix, the mother of enslavement. That wasn't enough. Anyway, so we are used in this community, guys, in a very similar or the same sense to a degree. To insert a code back in the mainframe? No, that's an allegory for something. That we can discuss that later. But we are used, right? Now let's look at the most basic way we're used. And we flip over here to the Snowden, the Edward Snowden ridiculous presentation. I mean, give me a break. Who believes one bit of this fairy tale? But this is how it's used. Okay. So to make a really long story short, 2007, 2008, 2009, 2010, we truthers are telling our family members and barking down at the end of the Thanksgiving table that they're listening to every phone call, they're recording every text, recording every email, your computer's listening, now your smartphone's listening, and of course the family laughed that off, you crazy conspiracy people. However, per this what Michael Hoffman calls a revelation of the method. I'm not bowing down to Michael Hoffman. I don't know what his role is in all this. I don't trust anybody pretty much anymore in this. There's a few names I do trust, of course, are very close, but not some guy that pops up. I'm just saying his own announcement in the interview about revelation of the method was probably revelation of the method itself. So, but I like the way he put it when I heard him, like, yeah, that's it. When I heard it, I was like, that's it. It's just, if you don't like the way it's phrased, call it the method of reveal. That's what's done here. And first we're considered crazy, but then this is something they wanted to get out. That's the difference between number one we're talking about now and number two we'll talk about in just a moment. They wanted people to get used to or habituated to the fact that every email is read, every text is read, all phone conversations, everything's tracked, complete surveillance. They wanted a normalization of that, and they accomplished it beautifully, actually using the truth community. We're the ones that planted the seeds. This is the role of the Alex Jones farm in this case. He's talking about how they're listening and spying, and the server farms in Utah are using up tens of thousands of gallons of water to stay cool, and the surrounding towns in Utah can't get water to feed their cows, and all those stories popped up about the NSA server farms and all. So it all comes through the animal farms, through Alex Jones and the rest, and we start talking about in the truth community exactly what they wanted, playing exactly right into their hands. And at first, the family at the Thanksgiving table doesn't buy it, of course. Shut up! Shut up down there talking about that crap again. Pass the potatoes, though. They don't care. They don't. But we've planted the seeds. Okay, we went out for free, worked for them, planted the seeds. Bent over backwards in the rice patties, planting. See the way Jet Li planted those rice patties in that kung fu movie, man? That was just bending over in the patties, and they're. How does it go? The foot doesn't get foot fungus just in that water all day long. But anyway, that's what we did for the system. Then, it's already planted in the minds of the normies. Then all this stuff comes out, the Snowden revelations, and William Benny was saying everything's red, and all these whistleblowers came out, and 60 Minutes articles, and then you had Julian Assange and all that. Here's another movie played by a cucumber head. All this Assange stuff. Again, another complete fairy tale comes out. So then I go back to my aunt and, start still trying to, push certain buttons, or as I used to push on the family more than I do now. And she says she runs the typical script of the normie. Well, I have nothing to hide, Matthew. If we have nothing to hide, I tell you, maybe. And then the other script they'll run is, if in the end, if national security needs it and one other event could be stopped, then we all deserve to be listened. Everything needs to be listened and watched, and it's okay. I have nothing to hide. And it could, the cherry on top of that normie presentation is it could prevent another event, Matt. Oh, you mean the event that never took place in the first place? That one? No, but you can't say that, but. So it could prevent something. Oh, I see. So you're willing to just throw out the 4th, 5th, and 6th Amendments to the Bill of Rights. Yeah, I see. Is that what you're willing to do? To be safe, yeah. So it's a drip normalization. It's a drip, drip, drip habituation normalization. And if we weren't sure, if we didn't know 100% what it was, these things are all fairy tales, then you know what the giveaway is? I'll give you 3 guesses, but you're only going to need one. They make a movie. They make a movie about it. So this guy who's so harmful to the deep state, he's so to those that, per Oliver Stone and Kevin Costner running around the JFK movie talking about it was a coup d'etat against America. What happened on that day at Dealey Plaza? He's running around, Kevin Costner pushing all that conspiracy bullcrap and that Oliver Stone JFK bullcrap. Well, that's also revelation of the myth. I'll talk about what the point of that movie was, if I remember, towards the end. But then they make a movie about it. So they're going to allow a movie to be made about how the government's just spying on everything, and Hollywood's just working for us. The moment they made a movie about it, we should have known 100%. We did, some of us. And then Cucumber Head over here makes this movie. Again, as soon as I don't think this has ever been broken, guys. Something we're not sure how to analyze. They make a movie about it that appears to be on our side, then you know exactly what's going on. It's pretty simple. All right, see you later, Cucumber Head. Now I'm showing a picture of the Paradise Fire, the California fires aftermath. So the first one, guys, is how they use us is to drip it out first. Drip it out first, assist in the normalization or habituation. Now everybody goes along with it. It's just part of life now. Everybody, of course they're listening, spy on everything. And if anybody needs an excuse, it's, they could prevent another incident. So it's just part of society, and the cement has been hardened on it. 4th, 5th, 6th Amendment? F it. It's only the Bill of Rights. F it. So the other way they do it is and they do this all the time, but I'm just going to use this as an example. This might be something that they don't want to come out, what's really happening, but they want us, when we talk about it, to appear crazy. So we are discredited, or we consider the boy that cried wolf, or the girl that cried wolf. I didn't mean to be offensive. That initial story was offensive. It should have been. I can't even say what it should have been. This video might not make it out. Maybe it was the Z or Zir that cried wolf. So this, let's just start with the absolute basics. do I, because this might piss a fringe element of the truth community off the way I'm going to present this. There's no doubt these fires were not normal or natural. Okay, we all agree. Not normal, not natural. Who knows what the cause was? But see, if the truth community should have just left it there. But when you have the truth community running around talking about energy weapons or dues or something from space, or it was the government involved to take out its own communities, or see, whether that's maybe somebody screaming at me from their bathtub in Skokie, maybe that is right. I didn't say it wasn't. I don't know. But when you present that to your family at the Thanksgiving table or to anybody, if you mention that, even in a video that potentially can get out to regular, quote, regular people, you're discrediting the whole community, even if it's right, because nobody's going to buy that. Of course, nobody down your cul-de-sac is going to believe there's any chance that that's happening. Right? It's so if you're being played, if you're talking about energy weapons and trying to tell people about how unnatural these fires are, you're done. No one's going to pay any attention to you. If you just start with the absolute basics and say, to somebody like my cousin who lives in California now, go down there, and if you're not willing to drive down there if it's a 45-minute drive, see how all the metal and porcelain is melted. That can't happen in the temperatures a natural fire can reach. Well, what are you saying, Matt? I heard you're a conspiracy. And then here's the way you deal with it. I'm not saying anything. I'm saying go down and see the metal that's melted and the porcelain that's melted, and I'll show you factually in these scientific books that this can't happen. And then we'll talk about it. I'm not going to talk about what happened until you admit that this is unnatural. You just keep it at that base level. You run around, saying it came a beam of energy came from somewhere. You're done. It's no different than splat Earth, splat turf. Okay, splat. I'm not making fun of anybody. I'm trying to avoid a banner ad, or worse. All right. So it's in telling people that NASA is really manipulating us and not, this is a lie over here. And let me show you why it's a lie. If you lead with that, that's one thing. But if you lead with the terminology, the number one term that all of humanity is meant to make the most fun of, it's the number one term that all of humanity has been trained to make the most fun of and to mock. And you want to lead with that. I don't understand that. I still see this throughout the community. I'd rather say, NASA's lying about everything. Let me show you how. Instead of jumping right to that, and if you jump right to that, everybody's going to turn you off. So, Neo's used, Morpheus is used, Trinity's used. You're being used. If you lead with those terms, okay, or you lead when you're looking at this sort of thing, the aftermath of paradise. Of course, the way the reality works, the way I think it works. It's not, I think very little here is real. It's a fluid reality. It mocks in its own presentation how it's paradise. I mean, all this stuff, we're in some sort of a matrix here, but I don't want to get into that. I'm talking to you. Well, Matt, you're leading with weird shit. I'm talking to you, people on my level. My videos aren't meant to get out to the normie. A lot of the people in these channels that talked about energy, how unnatural the fires were, and then energy weapons, they're on radio shows and went out into the public with that. See the difference? I'm talking to you. 10th level Jedi to 10th level Jedi. My channel's structured to you. I don't want to wake up anybody anymore. I want us collectively to put our heads together so we can move forward. There's a difference. I'm not running around getting on radio programs. See the difference? Calm down. The guy yelling at me from Skokie in his bathtub. I can hear you. I predict what you're going to say before you. These haters, can put it forth. I can hear you crying out in the night. So, this is how we're used. Okay, to completely discredit. But this is not something they don't. I don't think they don't. It's not like the Snowden stuff where they want a habituation of everybody knowing that the government has to be listening to everything. What's really happening here? Maybe they want it to come out 40 years from now, but they don't want it to come out now. So they're playing a different tactic with how the truth community is being used and played. The last way, well, not the last way, there's many more ways. The last way I'm going to talk about in this video, how we're being used and played, is, and this is also just, rice paddy work for free, how the truth community from day one is being used to lay down a million breadcrumbs in 1,000 different directions. And we're all out in the rice paddies planting their rice, and we're not even asking for any remuneration. It's free work we're doing for them. So we've created so many conspiracy paths in so many different areas. The police lineup of whodunit is so long that we've created in this community that, they laugh all the way to the creepy back room where Jared's serving, where if somebody does get a notion that things aren't right in the world, or something's not right about the Paradise Fire, or somebody comes across part of my list of if the world were real, this wouldn't exist or that doesn't exist, and somebody scratches their head and isn't completely gone and says, yes, something here isn't right, then they start looking into it. What do they find at this point? What do they find on the internet and in videos? Oh, bring in the police lineup. It's so big, the potential bad guy list, it doesn't even fit up on the stage. Remember, police lineup, it used to be, you could get up all these guys up on the stage. There's people waiting around the block, Archons, Reptilians, Anunnakis, bloodline families, Rothschilds, secret societies. It's just down the block. So the point is, the person that does get a sense something's not right, and very good of them, they want to investigate what the heck's going on. There's a million trails that all serve the system by pulling, what does it do? Pulls somebody outside and away from themselves. All of this stuff. Here's a book, whatever this says, never call them Archons, they're parasites, War of the Anunnaki. All of this stuff for us at this level is fun or interesting, and some of it could be true. Some of the ancient roots to some of this could be true. But we realize that all of this stuff, to the first grade truther, the only real answer is inside of ourselves. The interface, all lost souls remain on earth in terms of being trapped. They fail to go at death as they came. They fail to try to get out as they came. Every answer is in. The way out is in, through using this world to accomplish certain things for your soul or spirit. We're at the point where all this chase should be cut off. I continue to talk about the screen. Remember, this is a high school class. There's people coming in at different levels here. If you're ready to graduate, graduate. I try to hold on to the 10th level Jedis by encompassing this level of conversation, reminding you what's important. If you want to read the book here, The War of the Anunnaki, read it for fun, but realize that the entire point of it, I'm not saying the author they're not in on it, but the whole point, everybody's being used and played to draw everybody outside of themselves on the endless breadcrumb chase and rabbit hunt. So the point is, look how what we've done is, and through the breadcrumbs that they've laid for us, say we showed up as workers at the rice paddy field. They had all the rice paddies all ready to go and bound and whatever. It looks like these are all bound together, and you had to plant them in the mud in 6 inches of water. We went out there and started planting all these trails into the rice paddies. We did all the work for them for the last 10 or 15, mostly hardcore in the last 10 years. So maybe one of those rice paddies that were planted in by Jet Li in that movie, maybe there's some truth there about finding the truth inside you, inner tuning fork, inner knowing. All lost souls remain on earth. They fail to go as they came. How did you get here? You want to talk about traps and tricks after death? Well, it's one thing to be prepared for that. If you expect that, it's probably what will be delivered to you after death, if that is absolutely your expectation. But how did you get here? Go back the way you came. That's where you talk about people in their astral body or after death still having the human form. To me, that's like a giveaway. You're still part of this place. Where you were before this didn't have no human form with dumbass arms and legs. And if you got dumbass arms and legs after death, or you're floating above your body, you're like, well, I'm in some sort of green room or nether world. I'm not truly dead, or this isn't the way I came. I'm going to have the arms and legs attached to me, whether in the afterlife or whatever you call heaven, or no. How did I get here? Go back through that tunnel. Go back, and people are, well, what the birth process, Matt, and the sperm and the egg create the zygote. That's creating the body. The soul, I know somebody that remembers when their soul or slash spirit, interchangeable, whatever. People assign different meanings to those. It's not the purpose to talk about here. When the soul came in to the avatar, I know somebody personally that says that happened. I believe every bit of what they've told me face to face. It makes perfect sense. And many people say it's not the moment of the zygote forming. It came in from somewhere. They failed to go as they came. Where did that come from? It didn't have no arms and legs in an astral form when it came into the zygote. That's all I'm saying. What about yourself? So what we've done is we've laid the breadcrumbs where some poor bastard some guy's waking up today in Des Moines. And he's in Des Moines, and he's like, the Buffalo Wild Wings just closed down. What am I going to do today? Maybe I should finally investigate what's wrong with the world. That's what I'll do today. I'll order a Domino's pizza. The Noid will deliver it or whatever that thing is. And he's just, I'm going to investigate. And, I mean, okay, it was one thing when we started investigating was all these 7-Eleven job applications online and all this stuff. But think of what they have today. And I know about censorship and this and that, but the channels that, certain channels have been removed, and I try to be as careful as possible. Again, if anything happens, guys, free voice. Anything at all happens, even another, 3 strikes and you're out, even another event, I'm just not going to deal with it anymore. It'll be 100% freevoice.io if anything happens. But there's endless trails, and it's all of it accomplishes the system goal of pulling people outside of themselves, of getting them to look outward at the bad guy. As long as you're doing that, the system is fine. That's why we could never understand why there's all this truth in these Glenn Beck presentations and these Alex Jones presentations and all this. There's absolutely tons of truth to a degree, but it just leads to a chase or endless analysis outside of yourself. They failed to go as they came. So let me see if there was, we got to talk about this nonsense. Now, in terms of what's going on here, maybe I'll just try to think about it over the next few days, and I haven't analyzed what is the point of what they want to accomplish through this ridiculous UFO disclosure story. And maybe we'll come to conclusions here and in the comments. But the first thing, and this isn't even related to the bigger topics we're talking about, but they're doing it again. They've got these grainy ass pictures, and people don't even question it. Yeah, and what does an F-18 today probably cost? $50 million, an F-18 or F-16 or whatever. And yeah, like they can't just, I know some guy that mounts a GoPro onto his freaking hot rod. It's beautiful 1080i or 4K images from his hot rod. He goes around the corner trying to drift like Tokyo Drift. Every time he drifts correctly, it gives him some sort of excitement or pleasure. I mean, he can put a GoPro, but they can't put a GoPro. If I was GoPro, I'd approach the U.S. Air Force and say, I'll glue these fucking things on the airplanes and it'll give you a perfect HD image. They're still presenting this grainy shit and nobody stops and questions it. Like, why is an F-18 produced in 2018 producing this picture that looked like it was shot from a B-29 in World War II? They did the same thing with the events, the bang events, the event in Brussels. The people pushing their carts through the airport. Oh, that guy was pushing his cart through the airport. That had the incendiary device. I'm trying to talk around this a bit. It's all grainy and shit. Like, well, my little cousin just got this little video camera. Everything he dropped it, and as it dropped to the ground, it was in HD. Like, what? What? But people just accept this. They don't even question it. I mean, if we want to talk to people, we need to lead with this stuff. Like, why would an F-18 look at this piece of shit? If it was attached to some U-2 from 1958 or something, okay. But this is the kind of bullshit they're pulling now. I don't understand why people through this. If they ramp up this UFO things, guys, lead with this. Don't say anything else. Just lead with this. Why are we getting these grainy images when you're the kid that lives in his parents' basement across the street. He's unemployed from Domino's Pizza. He's just taking his unemployment check. He's got these GoPros on his car and they're beautiful images. Just lead with that with people. But I don't know what they're out to accomplish here. All I know, it flies around the truth community is this fake alien invasion. I don't buy that for one bit. I don't. It doesn't make any sense. And when something's too parroted in the truth community, I get skeptical of it. Too parroted, like hear this grand solar minimum. I was like, why do you keep using the word grand? It just looks like you're parroting what somebody else told you. Grand. If you want to talk about how the sun is going to dim, or you're using the same script. Grand solar minimum, grand solar minimum. Why are you using the word grand? It sounds stupid. It just sounds like you're parroting something. I was out the other day and I got burned in like 45 minutes. It didn't seem no grand solar minimum. It was hot as shit. So maybe that's true. Maybe it's not. It doesn't matter. But so what do we have flying around the truth community? There's going to be a fake alien invasion. Oh, really? See, I don't buy that for one bit. I don't think this is where they're going, because they faked this thing that can't be seen. It's just Goldilocks reality. Every family knows one person. It's Goldilocks, meaning there's no real world that could pull this off. Every family kind of knew one person that was kind of close to the family or in the family that got real sick or worse. And then that was all that one story was enough to propagate that everything the news says about this is real. And then with the social media, your sphere of influence is not just your block anymore. It's the whole world. Oh, my family did it. This is what social media does. It makes the world a lot smaller in terms of the bullshit narratives they want to propagate. My family here in Philadelphia, 90 whatever percent is in Philadelphia. They know of one uncle whose daughter, who I know, it's my cousin, she got very ill and with complications. Do I think she's faking it? No. I don't know exactly what this thing is. There's certain people that have issues, all right? Of course, it's not what they say it is. You know my position on this bullcrap. But because there's one nasty incident inside the family, that's enough. Then where the entire family will take every bit and every statistic the news presents as real. And that's how it does business now using social media. But this thing didn't exist. You couldn't see it. You couldn't smell it, although now they say dogs can sniff it. Dogs can sniff the sea. I purported the other day, or somebody sent it to me. You got to be kidding me. That's ridiculous. But with an alien invasion, guys, how is the truth community keep talking about this? Okay? They're going to fake an alien invasion. Well, has anybody seen an alien? I mean, okay, Matt, with deep fake, they can have the aliens walk right into the Oval Office. But everybody down your block won't, are they going to just I guess they'll blue beam a giant Will Smith Independence Day, giant massive spaceship up above the sky. Now, if they have that level of technology, shit that I can't even fathom, okay, then they could pull it off. If they're going to beam a giant ship like Independence Day, Will Smith out to get his paper in Independence Day, and they get this ship 80 miles long and get beamed above Philadelphia. It looks completely real. Okay, if you can pull that, if they have that sort of technology, you can pull off a fake alien invasion. But without that level of technology, at some point you need to produce an alien. At some point you need to see. There has to be in signs. Well, they were in the cornfield there. Just shit on TV. It wasn't. But then the damn thing came into the yard. The damn it came into. To see Mel Gibson and Joaquin Phoenix swing away. At some point, if nothing comes down your driveway, well, how are you going to have a fake alien invasion? I don't know. It doesn't matter, guys. This is going down a path here. It doesn't need to be going down. Maybe I'll be wrong. Maybe they will fake an alien invasion, but I don't know exactly what they're planning with this. And in terms of understanding how they do business, if we watch this alien stuff closely, we'll learn a lot. Thanks for listening, guys. I'll be back soon, or certainly try for freevoice.io and have a video loaded there this weekend. Thanks.